Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Guillermo, and I'm going to be talking about the early impacts of the COVID-19 pandemics in the coastal communities of Príncipe Island. So I'm going to be presenting the results of a study that was conducted almost a year ago by Fundación Príncipe and Fauna and Flora International. And the study was led by myself and by Laura Benitez Bosco, who is also here today. And okay, so just to introduce you to Príncipe Island, Príncipe Island belongs to São Tomé and Príncipe. It is a small island developing state located in the Gulf of Guinea. It is comprised of two main islands, and Príncipe is the smallest one. It has a population of 8,000 people, and the whole country is very dependent on fisheries. In Príncipe, the main livelihoods are, of course, artisanal fisheries, agriculture, and raising livestock. And also in the last 10 years, there has been a major development of the tourism sector by foreign investors. And right now there are five large hotels operating in the island. So just to give you an introduction of Príncipe's fisheries, fishers are typically men, traders are called palayers, they are typically women, and fish can be sold fresh, and in this case, it's normally sold in the same day, and most of it at the main market. Or it can be salted and dried, and in this case, most of the fish is sent to São Tomé. These exportations are a very important activity, especially in the coastal communities, because they are one of the few injections of external funds into the communities. Okay, so this is Príncipe, and now what happens when the COVID-19 strikes? So by the middle of March, we have all the travel in between the islands and international is banned. And by the end of April and the beginning of May, what we have is an enforcement of a lockdown from 3 in the afternoon to 7 in the morning of the next day. So basically what this means is that people have to concentrate all their activities between 7 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. Also at the same time, all the hotels announced that they officially shut down their activities, and approximately 200 people lose their jobs or go on layoff. So in this context, in this situation, we decided to conduct a survey to try to have a better understanding of what was happening and what were the impacts. So we conducted a telephonic survey. We targeted 22 communities, 10 of which were coastal communities. And at each community, we interviewed 6 people. There were 3 men and 3 women, and we tried to have represented different age groups. We used the smartphone application Open Data Kit, and also paper forms to record the answers. So we identified impacts that were likely to be short-term and impacts that were likely to be long-term. So the first one, basically the short-term impacts were mostly related to lockdown measures and disruption in the boat transport. So the whole population just developed a wide range of responses to these impacts, but they were very heterogeneous responses. They were not linear at all. But they were all likely to revert after the restrictions were lifted. And in the case of the long-term impacts, basically they are mostly related to the collapse of the tourism industry and to unemployment. And what we see here is a major disruption of the value chains, mostly fish and agriculture, but also other products. And what we see as well in general is a shift towards subsistence activities, either fishing, subsistence fishing, or subsistence agriculture, to be able to cope with unemployment. So how this works, what are the mechanisms? So we basically have these 3 factors here. The lack of tourism, the closed businesses, the closed resorts, it all leads to a loss of livelihoods and unemployment. And what we have here is a lot of people who are non-fishers and non-free divers. They're going to turn into spear fishing and line fishing from the coast to support with their subsistence. And on the other hand, what we have here is that this situation is going to lead to a reduced income in general for the whole population, which leads to a reduced demand. At the same time, we have the 3 p.m. lockdown, which basically means that there is no time to sell the fish. This, in combination with the reduced demand, leads to a lot of the fish not being sold, which leads to a reduced income for the fishers. And the 3 p.m. lockdown also means that the fishers have to return earlier if they want to sell the fish. So they have all these different adaptations, measures like using closer fishing grounds or shifting to night fishing gears. But what basically means that there is a change in the patterns of fishing effort. So for example, we have some gears that they are less suitable for this new schedule. So the effort decreases. And there are some gears that are more suitable for this new schedule. So the effort increases. So we have these examples here, the deep jigging line, the jigging line inshore, midwater troll, the Mersal long line. They are better for this new schedule. However, what we see, as I mentioned before, the responses are heterogeneous. So if we take a look at the demersal long line here, whilst some fishers reduce the effort to adapt to the new schedule, in other cases, some fishers increase the effort to adapt to the new schedule. In other cases, they actually reduce the effort of the same year. Why? Because of the demersal long line, it is a very expensive gear. It has a lot of hooks, and it also catches a lot of fish. So that in a situation when the income, there is a reduced income, the fishers have less money, there is also reduced demand, and a lot of fish gets unsold. Basically, for many fishers, it didn't make sense to keep on using this gear. So also, many other fishers decrease the effort of this type of fishing. So we see two opposite responses to different situations. Okay, so what happens with fish trades? We see the same factors here, creating loss of livelihoods and unemployment. Again, we see a lot of non-traders turning into fresh fish trade. At the same time, the dried fish traders, the exporters, because of this reduction in their income, they cannot purchase fish and salt in enough quantities to export it. So the processing and exportation decreases from their side. And they have to turn into fresh fish trade. So basically what we have is many more people trading fresh fish, so that leads to increased competition. And this, in combination with the 3 p.m. lockdown, the reduced demand, leads to a lot of the fish not being sold. This is going to displace traders that are normally more involved in fresh fish trade. And if they do not have an alternative, that directly leads to a reduced income. Some others that might have some better resources, they might invest those resources in processing fish, waiting for the situation to normalize and then export the fish. And in general, what we see here is all these adaptation measures. So as I mentioned, processing fish, they might also change the place where they sell the fish. They might also give the fish in trust. It's a practice that is called fiado, which means that I give you the fish, you pay me whenever you can. And in many cases, that means that the fish is never going to be paid. So that again leads to a reduced income. Or they can simply reduce the prices, lower the prices to be able to sell all the fish. But also, when they were asked about the fish waste, whether there was any more or less fish waste, what they responded is, we give the fish away, we must, but we do not let it spoil. So to avoid fish losses because of waste, they might just give it away to avoid this food waste. But this again has a very strong impact on the traders' income. So we see a very similar trend on agriculture, but in this case, we saw a lot of food waste. So again, lack of demand because of closure of hotels and reduced income. There is excess of production from smallholders, and that excess of production cannot be sold. It leads to food waste and very strong economic losses. And in general, what we see is a loss of livelihoods, that the loss of livelihoods is going to push a lot of people to open new agriculture plots and spending a lot more time in the fields to support with practicing subsistence agriculture. So, in conclusion, just to summarize everything, what we have seen is that the impacts of COVID have been very heterogeneous and have affected all sectors of economy. We have also seen that there are complex synergies between purely marine and purely terrestrial impacts and their adaptation responses. So what we think is that there is a very strong need to approach conservation and natural resource management in an integrated way. We also have seen a major disruption in the value chain, and we also see that there is a very strong need to strengthen and develop value chains. And in this sense, we did a value chain analysis after this study was conducted. And if anybody is interested, I can share the report. And just to conclude, we also think that there is a very strong need to support monitoring and surveillance for any potential threats derived from this situation. So for example, this could be deforestation or pressure on fish and marine stocks due to increased spearfishing or all these type of factors. So thank you very much. Muito obrigado. And if anybody has any question, please, you can ask me.